Hey, what's up guys? Taylor here, and I thought this would be a good time for me to show you my bar tack sewing machine. This isn't like a typical sewing machine. This is used mostly for industrial use, slacklining, climbing, or stuff like seat belts or safety equipment. And so that's what this is used for, and today I'm going to be sewing 2 loops onto my nylon slackline webbing so it doesn't have any abrasion or pinching at the ends of it when I connect things to it. I'll show you a little bit about the machine and we'll get sewing. Alright guys, so here we got the on and off switch. I just switched it on for us, and then we can come up over here to the computer, and the computer has a lot going on with it. I'll show you guys a few little things. There's preset buttons here to set different kinds of tacks, and then also up here you have width. And so if you need something that's shorter than an inch, so a little bit less wide, I can change that from less to an inch, along with the height of the tack if you want a little bit longer tacks. One of these buttons changes the tension of the bobbin, which I showed you guys earlier, and also some of the tensioning systems that you saw on the side of the machine earlier. And so there's a lot of buttons on here. This one kind of helps me reset. You'll hear something with this one, and that sometimes helps grab that lower thread. Alright, so down here underneath the machine is a foot pedal. Now this foot pedal here, actually, when the machine is on and I have everything set up, if I push on that machine, that's what starts the machine. So it's very important that I keep my feet off to the side, or I'm really ready to push this pedal, because that's what's going to actually start the sewing machine for me, because I'm going to be using both hands to hold the material. Alright, so over here we have the oil, and so just like any other machine, you got to make sure it's nice and oiled up so that all the small parts are working correctly. I have this small little bottle here with a nice top that I can squeeze into the machine here, and there's a little dial here with a red mark where it's got to always be filled up to. So that's the oil. I always have to make sure that's filled up. Alright, so over here we have 2 different kinds of thread that both have a different strength, and they go through these little eyelets up here, and then they come back down towards the machine, which have these redirects that create back tension for the thread. And so it gets winded through some of these eyelets, and then it gets put on through these little tensioning devices, and it goes down and then back up through another eyelet and then back down again. And that's all to create different tensions in the thread as it moves its way down towards the needle. Alright, so let's show you guys the bobbin. Down here is the bobbin, and it's snuck in this little secret container, and it's this circular device here. And this here contains a thread as well that gets hooked onto the needle above, and it gets threaded through your material. So this is a lock stitching bar tacking machine, so there is a configuration that this thread up here goes with this thread, and it creates a different weave that kind of binds the material together. So let's go ahead and put this back in, close this up, and by the way, I filled that with thread by this piece up here. So here up at the top of the machine is where we would fill that bobbin we just saw down below, and here's a little spool that goes inside that bobbin, and we're going to place this little spool right here on the top. And then we're going to go back to our threads, and so back here we have our white and black thread, and you just pick a thread. I'm going to pick my white thread here, and then you go even further back on the machine, and you have to thread this through and bring it around a tensioning device, because it's got to keep back tension. So something's always got to be pulling the opposite way for it to be tight. If there's nothing here, it wouldn't be tight and it'd be flying all over the place, and that's how the sewing machine itself works as well. So this kind of works the same way. We're just going to spin this around the opposite way a few times, and then there's a little lever over here, and we're going to push on it. Sometimes I make sure a little thread is nice and clean. The back tension is good. And now that the machine is on, I can push on the foot pedal, and that is going to fill up our bobbin. Alright, and then we can just snip the end here, open this back up, and now we can put this underneath so that it can be threaded up through the top part of the needle. Alrighty guys, now I'll show you how to thread the needle. We have the end of our line here, and you have to make sure you have a really crisp, clean cut at the end of it so that it goes through the end of the needle easily. You want to keep your fingers away from the end of the needle and then just go ahead and pop it through. And here we go, we have threaded our needle. We are going to be cutting a piece of this material here on the hot knife so that the webbing can go through it. And we need that because when we fold these in half like this to put in our sewn loops, we want a piece of material here that can protect from any abrasion, so any kind of rough surface from cutting our material. So we're going to cut these out of this piece of material here, and this is just a little bit bigger than the webbing, and it's hollow. And so since it is hollow, we want to make sure that we keep it open while we cut it, because if it's flat while we cut it, then it ends up melting the material together and we can't open it up anymore. And so let's go ahead, and we have the hole opened here. Our knife is looking pretty hot, and I want to get a clean cut going here. As you can see, it's hollow, so we'll take our hollow piece here and we'll thread our webbing through it. And there we go, we got our sheath for when we sew our loop. There we go. Alright guys, now that we have seen the machine, seen how everything kind of flows, and we have cut off our sheaths for our piece of material here that we're going to do today, we now just have to do a practice run through a scrap piece of material to make sure that everything in the machine is operating properly and we don't need to make any adjustments. It would really be unfortunate if I started to tack something and wasn't quite ready, or it's not the way that I want it, because then you'll just have to cut off that whole part of the material. So I'm going to do a practice run with this, and then I'll start sewing the other piece. Alrighty guys, now that we are done with our test piece, let's go ahead and start on our project. We have our piece of material here, and we want to make sure everything is lined up nicely and folded in half. We have our sheath where we want it. Let's go ahead and place it underneath our clamp and make sure the alignment is all proper, and let's get going. Sweet, so we have done our sewn loop. Looks pretty good. Thank you so much for all your help, and let me show you my sewing machine, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. See ya! So let's show you the bobbin. The bobbin, and the thread is threaded through the needles. This is a needle in a haystack. So there's the oil. Make sure it don't spill. Sometimes it doesn't quite work for you.
Gotta move those legs to the beat.